Yeah, so you can see it came out March 23rd, 2006. And then there's the title. I believe that the Harvard version has been downloaded over 350,000 times. Well, the United States supports Israel in a variety of ways. We give them all sorts of military and economic support, roughly $3 billion a year. Israel, despite the fact it is a relatively rich country, receives more foreign aid than any other country in the world. We veto resolutions in the United Nations all the time that are critical of Israel.
Ceux qui sont contre, 14 voix pour, une voix contre. Le projet de résolution n'est pas adopté par suite du vote négatif d'un membre permanent du Conseil.
Those against?
Those against? Ceux qui sont contre.
And the United States is actually talking about using military force against Iran. Now the question is, why is the United States so deeply concerned about Iran acquiring nuclear weapons? The reason it is that big a deal at this point in time is because of pressure from the lobby.
Thank you.
The article basically says that inside the United States there is a powerful interest group that is deeply committed to shaping American foreign policy in ways that work to the benefit of Israel. And second, the article argues that the policies that the United States ends up pursuing in the Middle East because of the lobby's force in the decision-making process are not in the American national interest.
Troops out now! Stop the war! Troops out now! Stop the war!
He's going to pass this message on to them. A free, prosperous, and secure Israel is in this nation's national interests.
It's not fun to be called an anti-Semite. It's not fun to be told that your scholarship is shoddy. And it's not fun to be pounded day after day and to see very few people standing up in your defense. But again, we knew that was coming. We knew that was the price of writing the article. And the lobby, what it's doing is it's going after people in a really hard-hitting way for the purposes of shutting us down and also for the purposes of sending a message to other people that if you follow in the footsteps of Jimmy Carter, or you follow in the footsteps of Tony Judd, or you follow in the footsteps of John Mearsheimer and Steve Walt, you will pay a serious price for your transgressions, right? So that's a deterrence model. They're trying to deter other people from doing what we did. I bet that it's impossible for either Steve or I to ever get a high-level policy-making position in the American government. For example, Steve was invited to go to a dinner with an aspiring presidential candidate at Harvard. And the person who had invited Steve to this dinner came to see Steve about a week after the piece came out. And she said that she had to disinvite him from the dinner because the presidential candidate's staff had called and said that it would not be acceptable for the presidential candidate to be at a dinner with him.
America and Israel have a special friendship.
You have devoted yourselves to strengthening the bonds between the United States and Israel.
The United States will stand with Israel now and forever.
I would argue that had you not had all of these neoconservatives prominently placed inside the Bush administration, that Colin Powell would have never ended up giving that disgraceful presentation in early February 2003 that played such a critical role in turning American public opinion.
5 The quantities were vast. Less than a teaspoon of dry anthrax, a little bit about this amount. This is just about the amount of a teaspoon. Less than a teaspoon of dry anthrax. Shut down.
So the question you have to ask yourself is, if the evidence was so flimsy, why did Powell get up and make such an unequivocal case that Iraq had WMD and was an imminent threat? And the reason is that there was tremendous pressure inside and outside the administration to make that argument. And the question is, who was creating that pressure? And the answer is, it was the neoconservatives, almost single-handedly. And of course, you don't want to lose sight of the fact that the Israeli government was also feeding the United States government intelligence, which said that Iraq had a serious WMD capability and was an imminent threat. There's an Israeli general named Shlomo Bram who has written a piece on this, which says in effect that Israel was a full partner in this scheme to convince the public in the United States and around the globe that Iraq was an imminent threat. Iraq was not an imminent threat. The fact is that even if Saddam had had nuclear weapons, there was nothing you could do with them, right? But you could not make those arguments at the time in the United States. It was very, very hard to get them out into the public domain and for them to get any traction.